Andrew, what is a Second Amendment auditor?
It is a very risky thing to do.
I'm Duane Urban, and welcome to the Urban Defense Podcast, featuring discussion on firearms, concealed carry, self-defense, the law, and much more. Designed to inform, educate, and increase your survival in a critical incident, with your hosts, Duane Urban and Andrew Saller. Welcome to the Urban Defense Podcast. I'm Duane Urban, and in today's episode, we're going to be reviewing a video. Andrew.
On January 11th of 2025, Second Amendment auditor or activist Stephen Wolf Simmons, a.k.a. the 2A guy, who posts on YouTube as I Am Dr. Wolf, had an incident in Washington County with the Sheriff's Department where an audit was conducted of the issue in Maryland. Can you have a long rifle being openly carried in your vehicle? What, if anything, will happen next?
Andrew, what is a Second Amendment activist or auditor?
These are individuals who go out into public situations and will actively engage with law enforcement in an effort to audit or test their knowledge of the Second Amendment, applicable law, the applicable rights, in an effort to either prove the officers wrong or to prove if they're indeed complying with fundamental rights and liberties. It's a very important thing to do. At the same time, it is a very risky thing to do. And we will see throughout this encounter how he was detained for a while, how law enforcement had a variety of responses they attempted to invoke. And in this case, thankfully, no one was harmed, but there is a degree of danger in doing this as well.
I think that's very interesting that people are willing to risk themselves that way to ensure that we all, have our Second Amendment rights. I mean, isn't that the point?
Well, ever since social media and YouTube has become more popular, that's when this whole trend started.
So you think it's
Yeah,
for
it's for
views, basically?
Yeah, I mean, drama sells, and this is drama.
Yeah, and it should be noted that we're not advocating for the police or the auditor. We're simply looking at the facts. We're going to look at applicable law, and then we'll present that to you, and you decide.
Is it also for awareness for the public to know what their rights are?
Could be. I mean, it's important that everyone should know their rights. Certainly law enforcement should know applicable law, but given how many laws there are, it is difficult, and not every police officer or security person or something like that is going to be an expert in every aspect of the law. And you see here in the video in a minute as we watch, we're going to see that there's some kind of confusion maybe. They're not entirely sure. They feel like something's wrong, but they're not entirely sure what exactly law is being violated. So they're kind of trying to figure that out. And again, we'll get into the actual language and then also some kind of gray areas within the law as we get through this. All right, so producer Jimmy, why don't you go ahead and cue up the video? This is going to be body cam footage from the officers.
Lovely January day in Hagerstown. And then once again, with all body-worn camera, buffering for the first 30 seconds. All the time I have clients who say, "What? How did that happen?" It's just how it works.
you have a pocket knife on you. Is there anything else?
No. Yeah, 2 pocket knives.
Just 2 pocket knives?
Yeah.
One here. I'm just going to take it.
Okay.
Yeah, why am I?
So we're gonna talk to you about it, okay? We're gonna grab this pocket knife off you just because we don't want there to be any problems later on. I'm not saying it'll be a problem just for anything, okay? The reason we got you out is that firearm you got in the vehicle, okay? It's obviously a big concern of ours because, hey, we're just got a firearm in the vehicle. I'm not saying you don't have a right to have it, okay? It's America, you have a Second Amendment. But we got to figure out, like, if it's loaded, you got, like, concealed carry permits, and then...
You need a concealed carry permit to carry a long gun. State law only... You
can have one, yes, but it can't have any ammunition in it. It cannot... Ammunition has to be separated from the firearm.
There's no prohibition on the lawful carry of a long gun in my vehicle.
Okay. Well, we're going to figure that out.
I just have my sergeant verifying that, okay? That's what...
Because all we've
and I told him, I said, I appreciate you being very cordial. You told me everything. But it's just something we're just double checking, okay?
I got you. Yeah, I've been through this before, as you can imagine, from officers...
Was it with us or with, like, a different agency?
Not this department. It was Maryland State Police, Westminster PD, and Carroll County, because I live in Carroll County.
Was it the same firearm or a different one?
Yeah, the same one. So,
same kind of like scenario. You got pulled over and they saw in the...
Yeah,
just like that.
They ask and they check and they say everything's fine.
Okay.
So,
I got you.
First time.
Do you, just for curiosity purposes, do you have a handgun concealed carry permit?
Not anymore, no.
Okay, that's fine. I just didn't know if you did or not. When did you get pulled over by MSP in Carroll County?
I don't remember.
Was it years? Months? It wasn't nothing like a month ago, 2 months ago, nothing like that.
It was relatively recent.
Okay.
I'm saying the law hadn't changed since then.
No, I'm with you.
I would say he's being polite and cooperative.
When did you move
I
out
would
of
agree.
Baltimore? You give me that change of address.
It was some time ago.
Some time ago. Saying last time you were stuck, you were living in Baltimore City, at least. Also, since they put it in wrong. They might not have asked you for your address change.
Yeah. Like I said, sometimes I forget to pull it out. Yeah.
You live up here in Hagerstown now?
Westminster.
I say I probably wouldn't live up here, personally. There's some crazy stuff that goes on out here.
Yeah. Well, considering I live in Baltimore.
Yeah, I was going to say. It's
that's fair.
This is paradise in comparison.
Paradise.
Yeah. When I moved to Westminster, they told me where I moved was the hood of Westminster. Okay, I'm saying that I moved from Cherry Hill. I know what it looks like.
Right.
Where's Cherry Hill in Baltimore? I'm not familiar with Baltimore whatsoever.
That's South Baltimore. It's one of the bad areas.
So very urban, very...
Baltimore.
Yeah, not Baltimore County, Baltimore City.
Baltimore City, yeah.
Alright, so for the meantime, put your hands behind your back. We're just going to detain you, okay?
You're not under arrest this time. We'll just detain you until we can figure stuff out, okay?
Okay.
The issue we have is you have a loaded firearm, and you're not allowed to have that in Maryland, okay? That's what we're trying to figure out. So you're just being detained at this point, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, no, there's...
Third County, our driver's detained.
So you're detained and you didn't weren't aware of any specific law?
You're detained right now.
I'm saying, but you weren't aware of any specific law that said that I wasn't allowed to carry it?
Okay, that's what we're figuring out.
Okay. Well, I mean,
so you're detained. You're not
As far as
under
we're
arrest.
aware, you cannot have any firearm, whether it's a handgun, a rifle, whatever kind of firearm it would be, that is loaded in a vehicle. Like if you had it and like the ammo was in the trunk, that'd be legal. That's what we're aware of.
Good.
Driver, Stefan, Devontae, Simmons, Ishang Valley, Class 8, 1 negative.
what's that?
What's that?
What's that? What she said?
She's saying you're valid. You're licensed.
You have valid.
You have a valid driver's license, that's all.
Do you have a concealed carry or anything like that?
LT calling the state or...
Yeah, I was just verifying.
So do we have someone calling the state attorney that knows the law in and out better than probably anyone would ever know, okay? And they're going to tell us that, hey, it's either legal for you to do this or it's illegal, okay? Right now, we're on the verge of saying that it's not legal, but we're going to talk to the state
We're going to
and
verify
that.
You're placed under arrest.
Correct.
Is there anything else in the call?
No, I'm not saying it's not. That we're just trying to figure everything out right now, okay? Is there anything else in the vehicle? Like any other firearms, any drugs, anything? Okay. Have you ever been arrested before? I'm not saying you're arrested right now. I'm just asking you. That's fair. That's fair.
Supposed to be at a customer's house right now.
Are you like an Uber or an Eats kind of guy, or?
He's my 82.
Okay. It's cold out here.
What kind of rifle is it?
AR-15.
AR-15 is registered to you?
I want to answer that.
Tape grip.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Hollow sun.
I'll say for you too. I just wanted it on record that I don't consent to any searches and seizures.
Okay.
And
Sound advice for any prospective client.
specifically my left hand.
No, that one's
There's
not.
Okay.
This one's not on. Yeah, just double check. And that one's perfect. Here, just keep this hand back here where it is, all right, just so I can fix that. Because that one's, yeah, that one's messed up.
I was about to say I can't really move them, but
I'm gonna double lock them so they don't get any tighter, okay? If you keep your hands like that, if you twist them, they feel tighter just because of the way it's shaped.
What have you read or where have you heard that you're allowed to carry a firearm in the vehicle that's loaded?
the city of Maryland has no prohibition on the carry of a long gun.
Okay. Where did you hear that from? Because all I've ever learned is you have
That's
to keep,
why I had my sergeant come, because I wanted to confirm.
so the Department of Natural Resources, like when you're hunting, okay, you take your firearm to go to, like, let's say, a field to go hunting. They tell you cannot have your firearm in the passenger seat, let's just for this example, with the ammo next to it. Okay, it has to be in two separate areas. That's why I'm just curious, that's all.
Resource article, I believe that's 10.410.
What's that?
I believe that's natural resource article title 10. I've read the law. State law only requires a permit to carry a handgun. State law defines a permit as a handgun.
Yeah.
There's any firearm with a barrel less than 16 inches in length. There's no prohibition on the open carry of a long gun.
Okay.
So, in order for something to be illegal, it has to be prohibited in statute.
Sure.
Not sure I totally agree with that under Maryland's common law scheme, but we'll deal with that later. Different video. We'll just throw the term false imprisonment out there as a common law crime, not readily defined by statute here in Maryland. And just a key point, I don't know about you all, I've got things going on throughout my day, being detained for a long period of time by law enforcement would not be how I'd want to spend my afternoon.
All right, Mr. Simmons, I'm just going to tell you what I got, all right? All right. So all we're going to do is we're going to pull it out and make sure it's not an SBR. If it's not an SBR, it's a rifle, 100% you're allowed to have it in there, okay? So that's all we're going to do is we're going to be checking that it's not an SBR, and we're also going to be checking with the gun center and make sure that you're allowed to have it. Those are the two things that we're going to be doing. I figured I'd let you know before it ends, okay?
I don't consent to.
I would articulate it slightly differently to try to check if he's a prohibited
I
person.
understand that's what they
So you got a
told,
problem,
but
take it with the
I
state.
still have a Fourth Amendment right. I'm saying no.
Well, not when we believe a crime has been committed. Then there's
but
probable
what
cause.
Then your immediate knowledge leads you to believe
Now
the gun's not registered.
Because you haven't given us any information to say that it is.
But that doesn't meet the court standard of reasonable articulable suspicion. You need to have something within your immediate knowledge that leads you to believe that specific crime is being committed before you can conduct your investigation.
Okay.
So you wondering whether or not I'm allowed to carry it is not the same as you want to know whether or not it's registered. Those are two different times. Reasonable articulable suspicion.
Is there more than 10 rounds in that magazine?
I'm not answering that question.
Okay. 42, make sure there's less than 10 rounds in that magazine as well.
For the record, more than 10 rounds is
Deputy
not
Dillman,
illegal.
ID number 10250. You'll get all the paperwork with Deputy Stoner.
Which one does Stoner?
Yeah, he's the one holding your rifle right now. He's the one that pulled you over.
That's your sergeant in the vehicle?
In the vehicle, yep. Sergeant Carr.
Sergeant Carr?
I don't know his ID number.
So you said you're
Deputy Dillman, 10250.
And Stoner and Carr?
Yep. Okay. Again, you'll get all the paperwork with all our information on it. Right. Again, all we're doing is right now going off what our state attorney said. Mm-hmm. That's all we can do. What house you trying to go to for ADT? Is it close by or is it?
In this house.
Huh?
That's in this house.
Right.
I don't want to give away that information.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm putting your rifle back in, okay? It's registered to you. Go ahead and take him out of handcuffs and just let him stay out. Just stay out in front of you.
These are not my handcuffs. I'm not sure exactly how they're working. Give me 1 second. I'll get the other one off for you.
There wasn't a handcuff pushing against my wrist. Handcuff was pushing against my bracelet. I was pushing it down.
Oh, I got you. I didn't hear that part, so I wasn't aware of that.
Sorry?
And I was talking about the handcuffs on my wrist. Yeah, what was happening was it was pushing me.
Oh, was it pushing to... I apologize.
It was pushing. So because you put it up here, it was pushing me back.
So that was pushing down. It wasn't on it, it was just pushing down. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I felt. And because my hands were like this.
Okay. I apologize for the inconvenience. And look, I mean, you have a larger mag, but there's not that many rounds in the mag.
It's not illegal to have a magazine either.
Sorry?
It's not illegal to possess it either.
No, it's not. Just if it had that many rounds, that would be the issue. But
That's not true.
Yeah, in Maryland, you can't have anything over 10 rounds in a magazine. Yeah, I'm not saying you can't possess, but you can't have more than 10 rounds. I do know that. You cannot.
You would be incorrect, Deputy.
State attorneys have told me you can't have more than 10 rounds. So that's what I'm telling
You
you.
wouldn't be able to pull up a law that prohibits it.
Sure.
The state doesn't prohibit possession. This says anything for some time to fail to sale, transfer, what's the other word I'm looking for? Pretty much like you can't buy, sell, and receive in Maryland, but people are allowed to exit the state.
Yes.
Because you're allowed to possess in Maryland.
Right. I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm just saying.
I'm sure he's having the talk, but again, we would advise you not to keep it there because, again, it's one of those things where if you get stopped, it might escalate to where that other person doesn't, overreacts, if that makes any sense. That being said, too, we don't want your gun to get stolen. Do you keep it in the car, all the time?
I don't answer any more questions.
Okay, that's fine. So, really appreciate you being cooperative with us. Both warnings. No fines, anything like that.
I appreciate it.
Do you have any questions then for us? My information is on this one.
I'll try to pay more attention just with the roads, how it are.
Yeah, when you were returning from West Franklin, or East Franklin, West Franklin on the Walnut, that was right by the ball. Yeah, at the light before you made that left turn.
Okay.
You didn't even touch the left turn. And I was like, okay, well, and then so I followed you a little bit, and then this is 25, and you went 40.
I got you.
All right, so yeah, you're good to go. I appreciate you being cordial.
Do
Any
you have
questions,
any?
like I said? Okay.
Yeah, no questions?
Nope.
All right, sure. Have a good day.
I think we can allowed to carry a rifle like that.
So there's a few things going on here. Hard to find good help. There's so all right. So there's a few things going on here. I did some research and pulled some documents that we're going to go ahead and discuss. So first, there is a charge called handgun in vehicle that says that you cannot have a handgun in your vehicle, concealed carry permit people aside and law enforcement aside, but for certain enumerated reasons, to or from a place of purchase, sale, or a repair shop, to or from your residence and place of business if you own and substantially operate the business, between your residences, things like that. There is not anything that specifies long guns in that sense. However,
Where would I find this information, Duane?
well, you would have to dig deep into the natural resources article, which is what the gentleman in the video cited as would be Section 10. Am I right on that? Would we call it Section 10?
Title 10.
Title 10, which would be Title 10. And as we dig into it, this deals with hunting and things like that. But under that section or title, it says, a person may not shoot at any species of wildlife from an automobile or other vehicle, or, except as provided in subsection 4-203B of the criminal law article and Title 5, subtitle 3 of the public safety article, possess in or on an automobile or other vehicle a loaded handgun or shotgun or a rifle containing any ammunition in the magazine or chamber. So his assertion was it was not against the law to have the rifle in the car, which is correct. However, his assertion that it could be loaded might be a problem under this law, or maybe not. Andrew.
Open for debate. The section you just read, Duane, when we look at the principles of statutory construction, the preamble deals with hunting. It's in the natural resources article, which deals extensively that whole subsection and section with hunting, the times of hunting, when you can hunt, where you can hunt, what equipment you can use while hunting, discussing the shotgun requirements for hunting waterfowl, things of that nature. So a clever attorney would argue that section only would apply if one was hunting in hunting grounds, planning to hunt, preparing to hunt, and sections contained therein contain prohibitions of shooting from vehicles while hunting and with the various use of light sources to attract animals while hunting.
Oh, so what you're saying is if you're using your rifle to look for a wabbit, it cannot be loaded.
Well, while you're in your vehicle.
In your car, yeah.
In your vehicle. But if you're going to repair a home alarm system, you might be able to have it loaded.
So this we're specifically talking about vehicles inside of the vehicle here, but the argument would be made that there is no law prohibiting the open carry of a loaded long gun outside of a vehicle. Andrew.
That is my understanding of the law in the great state of Maryland. Delegate Smeagol, may he rest in peace, put out a number of videos on this very topic of how it was probably legal, but incredibly dangerous to do.
Absolutely. Not necessarily a great idea, but no statute that prohibits it. And for those that were interested, if I didn't mention it before, Maryland Code Natural Resources 10-410.
There are going to be a number of municipalities, the city of Baltimore, that are going to have local laws that would prohibit the carrying of loaded long guns within the municipality. So that would be another thing to consider and be wary about if one decides this is an appropriate course of action.
Yeah, and you're going to have to look that stuff up and know it in advance. So in my research to find more information that might help shed some light on this topic, I came across a letter that comes from the Attorney General of Maryland, dated May 13th, 2011. And it was response to a question from a judge, the Honorable John Bonin Jr. And there was a number of questions that this judge posed to the Attorney General's office, and I'll read the relevant ones. So the second question that was asked, what restrictions, if any, exist on lawful persons who will carry long guns for personal defense in Maryland under state law? The response was this: long guns are dangerous weapons and are subject to the limitations the law places on carrying and using dangerous weapons. Long guns are also firearms and as such subject to certain limitations on where they may be carried. Long guns are also subject to limitations on who may carry them, though most of these limitations are not applicable to law-abiding persons. Finally, Natural Resources Article 10-410, as we just talked about, prohibits a person from possessing in or on a motor vehicle a loaded handgun or shotgun or a rifle containing ammunition in the magazine or chamber. This law makes exceptions for the persons permitted to carry a handgun under Criminal Law Article 4-203 and Public Safety Article Title 5, Subtitle 3. These limitations are discussed in greater detail in response to questions below. So that was their response to question 2. The third question that was asked, in what areas is carrying a long gun prohibited? And the response was, essentially, without reading everything, it's going to be the prohibited places in Maryland, the places where firearms are prohibited, school property, government buildings, things like that. The next relevant question is the sixth question that was posed to the Attorney General's office. While lawfully carrying long guns for personal defense purposes, may the gun be loaded and functional? Their response, as discussed above, Natural Resources Article 10-410 prohibits carrying a loaded rifle or shotgun in a vehicle. Otherwise, I have found no prohibition on carrying a long gun that is loaded and functional in places where a person may carry a long gun. The loaded status of the gun could be considered, however, in determining whether a person is carrying the long gun openly with the intent or purpose of injuring an individual in an unlawful manner. The next question that was posed, number 7, what requirements exist for citizens while transporting long guns to and from various destinations? Their response, while there may be federal law that control the transportation of firearms on airplanes and trains, the only Maryland law I have found that relates to this matter with respect to long guns is Natural Resources Article 10-410, which we've already discussed. The next question that's relevant is question 10, and we'll have links to this stuff below. Can a person lawfully carry a long gun in a non-threatening manner be detained and or questioned? Their response, in Swift versus State from 2006, the Court of Appeals discussed 3 tiers of interaction between a citizen and the police. The most intrusive encounter, an arrest, requires probable cause to believe that the person has committed or is committing a crime. The second tier, the investigatory stop or detention, known commonly as Terry stop, is less intrusive than formal custodial arrest and must be supported by reasonable suspicion that a person has committed or is about to commit a crime and permits an officer to stop and briefly detain an individual. The least intrusive tier, a consensual encounter, involves no restraint of liberty and elicits an individual's voluntary cooperation with non-coercive police contact. A consensual encounter need not be supported by any suspicion, and because an individual is free to leave at any time during such an encounter, the Fourth Amendment is not implicated. Thus, an individual is not considered to have been seized within the meaning of the Fourth Amendment.
In the video we just watched, he was clearly seized within the meaning of the Fourth Amendment.
Yeah, I would say anybody that's, when you're placed into handcuffs, you're not free to leave at that point. And again, that's going to be some form of detention, potentially in the Terry realm.
Courts have ruled that when they just seize your license, you are seized. That in and of itself counts as a seizure.
Well, during a traffic stop, you're not free to go until we've concluded the stop.
Indeed, one is seized.
So Criminal Law Article 4-101C2 provides that a person, quote, person may not wear or carry a dangerous weapon, chemical mace, pepper spray, or tear gas device openly or with the intent or purpose of injuring an individual in an unlawful manner. Criminal Article 4-101B4, however, provides that the section does not prohibit the carrying of a weapon by an individual who carries the weapon as a reasonable precaution against apprehended danger, subject to the right of the court in an action arising under this section to judge the reasonableness of the carrying of the weapon and the proper occasion for carrying it under the evidence in this case. The difference between the two will often not be obvious from mere observation. As a result, it is clear that any officer may question a person who is openly carrying a long gun in an attempt to determine whether that person's behavior is within the law. Whether a detention or arrest is appropriate will depend on the circumstances, including the response to any questions that are asked. An officer may also stop and question a person who is carrying a dangerous weapon, including a long gun, to determine whether the person is qualified to possess a weapon and whether the weapon has been transferred in violation of the law. And the final ones that we will talk to is number 12. Can a lawfully carried long gun be confiscated by the authorities? They answered basically yes in some circumstances, and then they discuss case law. And it says that the Fourth Circuit upheld the action of police officers in seizing 41 guns belonging to a man after he told the healthcare hotline that he was suicidal and had weapons in his apartment and could understand shooting people at work and things of that nature. And the final one that we'll discuss is, can a person carry a loaded AR-15 openly/concealed in a non-threatening manner on a public roadway, sidewalk, or municipality in Maryland? And their answer to that, this final question that we'll discuss, is that it is clear that a person may not carry a loaded AR-15 concealed on their person anywhere in the state. CR 4-101C1. A person may openly carry a dangerous weapon, including a loaded AR-15, unless the possession of the weapon is itself illegal or it is carried in a place where it is not permitted. Because the state preemption provision grandfathered existing local regulations of firearms, there may be municipalities where open carry of firearms is not is not permitted, as Andrew stated. So what can we take from all of this, Andrew?
This was Doug Gansler was still the Attorney General back then, correct?
No, I'll tell you who it was. It was
that's who wrote the this.
Oh
opinion.
yeah, yes.
Who?
Doug Gansler was Attorney General. The person writing it is Assistant Attorney General Catherine Rowe.
So bear in mind several things. Number one, this is 15 years old almost at this point. Number two, this is merely that Assistant Attorney General's opinion. These are not binding precedent. These are not things that have been tested in court. This is not a law. This is that Assistant Attorney General's opinion back then when Doug Gansler was still the Attorney General. I am not saying they are incorrect. I'm not saying you shouldn't pay attention to this, but bear in mind, this has not been tested to an extensive extent in Maryland courts. I think I would support what the Assistant Attorney General said about the vast majority of this. At the same time, I would, as I've pointed out, question the applicability of that DNR statute outside of a hunting context. At the same time, that statute is widely cited. I was doing some research today, the Brady campaign and others link to it. So it's definitely out there. In Maryland, we do not have a number of these kinds of encounters that have worked their way up. In other states, the court has ruled that unless you can say there is something more, even though the individual has an open firearm that they are carrying, to interact with them and stop them, you could not conduct some sort of invasive search to determine are they, able to carry that firearm unless you had some other information that would make one believe that the person the law enforcement is encountering is a prohibited person or something like that. We do not have cases like that here in Maryland yet.
All right, so back to the original point of the video, the Second Amendment auditor with the loaded long gun in his vehicle. What is the final say on that?
Tragedy could have happened that day, but thankfully it did not. He bravely stood there and exercised his Second Amendment rights here in Maryland. At the same time, it is a very risky thing to do. So while I support his decisions, I would implore anyone thinking of taking these actions to think long and hard about where you're doing it. Once again, check the local municipal regulations, not just the Maryland State Code, and ensure what you're doing is legal. You do not want to be in some situation where it is not. And at the end of the day, you are doing something with a firearm. Be very cognizant of the time, date, and location you are doing this, because it is going to be a highly volatile situation and could have a tragic ending.
So for the Urban Defense Podcast, remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Remember, knowledge is mental ammunition, and train, fight, and win.